what, or maybe we're talking about at work, we talk about we got passed over at work, or there's a problem with our loved ones and it just doesn't seem to change. There's times when we feel just like nothing's going right, nothing's going at all. We're stuck in affliction, or we're stuck in persecution, or it just seems like life is so hard. And it's during this time that we come up with the questions. There's nothing wrong with questions, by the way. God likes questions. It means we're talking to him. But questions like, well, why is this happening? Or why isn't this happening? Or when is this going to change? Or what can I do about it to motivate change? How can I make this different? And if we stop and think, or if we go talk to somebody, we're going to get answers like this. Well, I'm not in charge of everything. So that responds with, you wait on God. You trust God. And while we know that's the right answer, we know that's the right answer, don't we? But we keep asking, why? So they broaden that out a little bit. Good wisdom broadens it out, and it's you wait on God, and you do the right thing while you're waiting on God. You do what you know to do. And how do you know what to do? Because he tells us what to do and what life is supposed to look like and how we're supposed to respond. So you do what you're supposed to do, and you wait on God. But after 2 years in prison, don't you think it starts to feel like, okay, I got to nudge this somehow. I got to find a way to bump this door open because nothing's happening. All right, well, Joseph, you tell me, how do you make it through? Well, I think Joseph gives us a great example of you work hard as unto God. You do what you know to do. You work hard as unto God. You live with joy and faith and trust. Well, how do you know he did that? Well, because if he was running around moping and being bitter, he doesn't get promoted. He's not leading people in the prison. In fact, it even says the guard over the prison didn't even pay attention to him because Joseph took care of it. Those things don't happen if you're bitter, nasty, murmuring. I have employees, bitter, nasty, murmuring employees, I pay attention to. They're causing destruction. Okay, you don't pay attention to those who are accomplishing. So we know, we have a good picture. This is what he did. Joy, faith, trust. We also know from last week, he had eyes of compassion. He had a vision for others. That's where he was investing his life. Joseph is thankful. Joseph is hopeful. But Brother Ivy, he still had plenty of questions. He still has, why do my brothers beat me? Why did they hate me? Why did they sell me? Why am I in Egypt? Why did Potiphar forsake truth? Especially after all that I had done for him. And that's a hard thing not to pay attention to. I have invested my life for him for 10 years, 10 and a half years, 11 years. I've lived for him, and I made everything in his life better, and he knows it. We talked about this. I almost thought we were friends. We talked about Yahweh. Why did Potiphar's wife lie? She didn't love me. She's destroyed everything. Why is my life ruined after all of the hard work? See, you know what I did to get in prison? I did everything right. I worked hard as unto God. I lived with faith and hope and trust. And 2 years every day, waking up the same. Yet, we never see Joseph fall. But Wayne, I can't help. I got to ask questions. How is that? How is it that he doesn't fall? Well, Joseph had a promise, and so do we. Joseph had a dream. God spoke to him, and he said, this is going to happen. Joseph believed that was going to happen. We have lots of promises. I remember reading one time, because I heard it in a sermon, so I went and looked it up. I think somebody for Time magazine looked it up, and there's like 3,000 promises. I've heard others say, well, there's 600 and something, but Time magazine trying to disprove the Bible, they came up and said, there's 3,000 and something promises, and how could all these be true? Well, they just need to live the life a little bit. They'll find out they're all true. But I just want to look at one of them. Erica, do you have any of those verses yet? If not, I'm going to turn to them. Do you have Job? Okay. Job chapter 23. Please turn there. Let me put a marker here. Preacher, I definitely have your mic. I'm not going to bend it so it makes no noise. But I want to. Then he has to bend it back. Job 23, and we know about Job. Think about Job. Dear old Job. Job doing everything right. His life is shocked, turned upside down. His health is gone. His home is gone. His family is dead. His whole life is destroyed. So he has an opportunity. He's going to go and seek comfort from his friends, right? Wrong. Okay, here's where we find Job in this chapter. It's all the affliction is there. Job 23, verse 3. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. Now, when we went through Job, I love this verse. You read a lot of commentaries, they're attacking Job for this verse. It's like, he should know. But you miss, in the middle of his affliction, guess what he wants? Guess what he needs? Guess where he's going? Doug, do you see where he thinks the answer is? It's not in anything he nudged. It's if I could just get in front of him, I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. Oh, Job thinks he's going to change God's mind. No. Job has questions. Job has why and when and how and what and is this me? And Job has questions. And he says, if I could just get in front of him, if I could get in front of him, he'd answer the questions. He'd make it make sense. I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know the words which he would answer me. I would then have the answer, because you know who has the answer? God has the answer. He's still in charge of the whole thing. He knows why it makes sense to him. I would know the words which he would answer me and understand what he would say unto me. Will he plead against me with his great power? I'm not afraid to go talk to him. Don't tell me not to go talk to him. Don't tell me not to ask questions. He is not going to slap me down. I know how he's going to treat me. I know I can go to God. I want you to remember what Job had gone through. And still, he's so strong. No, this is what he's going to do. He's going to strengthen me. Now, just for time, jump down to verse 10. Because here's the promise. Here's what Joseph gets to hold on to. Brother Ivy, we all have times like this. Here's what we get to hold on to. But this I know about him. Because he goes through some verses right there. He says, this is what I want, but it doesn't seem like he's over here when I talk. And it doesn't seem like he's here. And it doesn't seem like my prayers are getting anywhere. You know why? Want to know why it doesn't seem like his prayers are getting anywhere? Because day after day he's in the prison and he wakes up and it's exactly the same. He doesn't see change. So it doesn't seem like his prayers are getting anywhere. But God hears. So, verse 10. This I know. This is what happens when we pray too, by the way. We counsel ourselves. When we have to say it out loud, it changes things. God stirs something up in our heart, and now some things begin to make sense. And in the middle of his, I can't talk to him. I just need to talk to him. Here's his conclusion. But he knoweth the way that I take. Okay? It doesn't sound like he's listening to me, but he knows. He knows the way that I take when he hath tried me. Oh, that's what this is. That's what's going on. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Okay, that's our promise. In the middle of the prison time, God's making gold. In Potiphar's house, in the pit, God is in the gold-making business. It is in our affliction. Our affliction has a reason. It has a reason, and it has a time limit. It only goes for time. You know who controls the clock? God. What do you say? I don't know if I can take much more. Well, he's not going to put us in a situation that we're not able. And in that situation, he's going to make a way. He's not going to forsake us. And he's going to be with us. And he's going to strengthen us. Okay, so Matt, the challenge is for us to see. Well, here, look at it this way. How long do you think he's going to keep you in the prison? Here you go. Not 1 second longer than it takes. It takes to what? To make gold out of Matt. That's what he's trying to do. Not 1 second longer. Oh, I gotta hurry. I'm really struggling with this chapter and the whole flyby Viewmaster thing. It's a tough chapter to fly by. There's some really, really deep pictures in this chapter. But I do like the fact, and we have to point out the fact, that what it produces is gold. Not wealth, not ease. Gold. Value, usefulness, purity, strength. Okay? It deepens life. It provides character. What it does not do is make everything easy. You know, if you take a look at this picture, Ivan, you take a look at this picture, we know the end of this story. So the end of this story, he becomes viceroy of all of Egypt, right? He becomes the big chief, only one above him, and that one probably does what every other boss he's ever had. He just lets him run the show. It's about to become easy for Joseph. Well, that's one of the things we're going to look at here in a minute when we get to the snapshot, when we get to look at the leader. We got this bad view that being in charge is easy. Things only get tougher for Joseph. His decisions control the lives of everyone in the nation. That's not easy. But God is with him, and God is preparing him for that big task right here. Why did he have to stay 2 years? I don't exactly know, but I can generally answer it this way. Because he wasn't ready yet. He wasn't ready for what? He wasn't ready for the task God was going to give him. We have lots of pictures. Why did David spend 10 years running around in caves? Where do you think he learned to be the humble king? Why did Moses spend 40 years on the backside of a desert? Why did he get called to be the greatest leader the world has ever known except for Christ in the history? How did Moses become that? How did he become the meek man? Well, that happens raising sheep on the backside of the desert, not in the palace. Even the mighty super Christian Paul, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful, that's what we make him. But Paul had to go off to the desert to learn. And still, after he did, he comes back, and what does he have? He has a thorn in the flesh to buffet him and keep him humble his entire ministry. It is in the desert times of life that, let me do this. Okay. It is in the desert times of our life. Picture it this way, by the way. Picture our life as a stream. Well, that stream is full of mud and silt and junk. But in the desert times of our life, all that stuff filters out. And now it's pure and clear and flowing. That's what happens in the desert. In this case, that's what happens in the prison. That's what he's accomplishing. I know this. I know that I'm tried. But when I come forth, he's making gold out of me. I'll give you a New Testament passage. Do you have that one? 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5. More well known. Start in verse 6. Just because anytime I see the word humble, that's where I'm going to start, because that's where it starts. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. And then it goes through, okay, humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand. It gives this picture already. And if you go back to the beginning of Peter, you know, fiery trials, all right, they're under some pressure. This is how he tells you to handle the pressure. Humble yourself. Trust in God. You know what he just told him? When am I getting out of the prison? Trust God, do right. That's what Peter's telling him right here. But he goes a little bit further. casting all your care upon him, for reminding you, okay, you're not alone. Then he goes on to tell you, we have an adversary. We have somebody roaming around. We have somebody who's trying to destroy us in the middle of this. Keep that in mind. This isn't accidental. This is Satan's plan. Verse 10, but the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that ye have suffered a while. Just a time. Just a time. And he doesn't make it less. The word is suffer. It's not easy. It's not easy. But he's called us to do hard things. Hard things are valuable things. He has not called us to take the easy road. He's going to make it light because we're not doing it on our own. After that ye have suffered a while, make you. Look at all these benefits. Look. Perfect, established, strengthened, settled. That's gold. Not easy. Not going to undo all the wrongs. Not going to fix everything in the past. Joseph still had scars. But he's going to make you a character, steady, solid person. That's what he's trying to do. And this is what we see in the life of Joseph. Here in chapter 41, preacher, you just walked in when I was done with my introduction. Here in chapter 41, I just have to do this. I'm thankful that this is Sunday school, so when I don't finish, I can just come back to the same old spot. Here in chapter 41, we see the turning point in the history of Joseph's life. This is where things begin to get different. Now, I'm going to try to just have 3 little viewmaster snapshots and of some things in this passage. And I do truthfully believe, preacher, this is definitely your mic. We're going to have to switch it. It's definitely your mic, and I don't want to bend it because I sound like a storm up here. But those disruptive people, at least they're already sitting in the back of the class. I'm thankful for whoever taught her to sit in the back of the class. Three things. One, we're going to try to take a quick look at the leader. We're going to try to see what the wise counselor did or said. And then 3, we'll get a quick look at the forgetful servant. And I don't know if we'll get that far. But we have to start back in chapter 41. And we won't read all of this. We know the story. But let's pick it up in verse 1, and we'll just read a bit. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, cattle, and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. They're good-looking, and they're healthy. And they're down there eating close to the river. Why are they down? They're in that delta. Okay, and why are they in that delta? Because everything is green and lush, and they're going to stay pretty and healthy. So, and behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river. Cattle coming out of the river. I'm going to tell you something right here. I've never thought about this before this week. So, don't tell me you have. It'll burst my bubble. But we're about to read this picture. We know the story. In my mind, these should have been crocodiles. No, they should have been crocodiles. It makes sense. They should be crocodiles. In a human mind, have you ever seen a cow eat a cow? Have you ever seen an unhealthy cow overpower a healthy cow? This picture does not make sense. These should have been crocodiles. They're eating close to the water. What happens close to the water? This happened all the time. Don't let the cattle get close to the water. A Nile croc is going to take your cattle. I sat right there and I was like, but then, in my head, God is so much smarter than us? This needs to be cattle. Because you know what happens in our life? It doesn't look dangerous. It's just twisted. It's just distorted. That's what he does. He takes the good and beautiful things and he twists them or he distorts them. We're going to read, they come right up and they're right beside the healthy ones, the healthy, beautiful ones. They're interacting with them. Yeah, that's what happens in our life. Satan, that's what he does. He just twists things. He just distorts things until they're not dangerous. And they didn't run. They let him come right up next to him. And then I really would like to see this picture. How did they eat him?
Yeah.
This is my picture. I don't think this was a slow process. Brooch, they're unhealthy cattle coming out of the water. I mean, that's some Jaws thing anyway. Da-da, da-da, da-da. They come right up next to him. I just think they turned around and went. That's enough to wake up Pharaoh. Ugly, distorted. That's what sin does to our life. Verse 4, so Pharaoh awoke, and he went back to sleep. Pharaoh's stronger than me. I'm thankful I don't remember most of my dreams. And he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came upon one stalk, rank and good, and behold, 7 thin ears, blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. Womp. I don't know how that happens. They don't even have a mouth. I don't know how that happens, but it happens. The Borg. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank, full ears, and Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof, and Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Okay. God had to shut their mouths, because the wise men of this world never run out of things to say. They can twist everything. This has to be the first recorded time that they didn't have some lie to spin. But they said nothing. Yeah. 10 o'clock. I just want to take a quick look at the leader. Because again, I think we look at leadership. And I mean, just take a look at Joseph's life. Brother, I mean, how many times have we gone back and looked at Joseph's life and said, yes, things were really hard, but then after he interprets the dream, everything gets easy. Like being in charge of the whole nation is easy. And if truth be told, we tend to think that way. Rob, I want to become a boss because when I become a manager, then I get to do nothing. Owners are the evil of America because they just get all the money off of everybody else's labor and they do nothing. It has become the viewpoint. But being a leader carries with it great responsibility. The good of others hang on your wisdom and your decisions. If you're talking about business, their jobs, their livelihoods, their house is based off of your decisions. And for 5 minutes, I think we really should put ourselves in the shoes of the leader. Preach, you want to know why? Because we all are a leader in some aspect. Someone looks up to us for leadership. Everyone. That could be at work, that could be at home, that could be in the classroom, that could be here in church, that could be a group of friends, but use the modern word, we're all an influencer in some way. Now, when we recognize that, I know this. There is a loneliness, there is a burden, there is a nervousness, there is pressure that comes. Then there's pressure that comes in being the one who makes the decision. That's why us guys, we want to turn. Here, Brother Hank wants to turn to Miss Davy and say, I don't know, what do you want to do about it? Because in a way, somehow that just removes a little bit of the pressure. Really what it does is it creates this pressure. Well, it's not what I wanted to do anyway, but you're the one that said, no, welcome to America. That's how we live everything. There is pressure in being the one who makes the decision, in being the leader. Now, in our country, we have come to diminish, to tear down leadership, whether that be in government, okay, we're in Sunday school. The whole joke is, who's going to have the preacher for lunch? But it's the president, it's the city council, it's the boss, it's the owner, it's the teacher, it's the principal, it's the dad, it's the mom. No one plays the blame game better than Americans. And we blame whoever is in authority. Wow, that has had a terrible effect. These are just simple things. Here's one effect. Nobody wants to be a leader. Who wants to put themselves in the place where they're going to be torn down all the time? Remember way back when you were in school, Bruce? It was like a big deal to run for student council. You know you have to beg kids to do it now. Yeah, that's right. It used to be a big deal to get promoted to manager. Now people don't want the responsibility, they just want the check. I can't tell you how many businesses I deal with, somebody gets it, and then they end up getting demoted from the responsibilities, but HR needs them so bad they keep the check. Nobody wants to be in charge. 2, no one knows how to lead. I'll give you 3. You know we're supposed to encourage leaders. 1 Timothy 2, I think it's verse 1. It tells us that we're supposed to pray and give thanks for our leaders. Yeah. We're supposed to encourage them like we would want to be encouraged. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You know what happens when you give thanks for anything? Here's what happens, Brother Wayne. When you give thanks for Miss Tammy, not out loud so Tammy hears it, because then she's not going to believe you. She's thinking you're just doing it out loud so she hears you. But I mean, when you give thanks for Miss Tammy, you know what you just did? You gave her value. No, that's what happens in your heart. You establish her as valuable, because we don't give thanks for things that don't matter. I'm thankful for things that really matter to me. And when you give thanks, what happens is you now make her matter. You know what would happen if we would give thanks for leadership? We make it matter. When you give thanks for the pastor, when you give thanks for the father, when you give thanks for the principal, when you give thanks for the teacher, when you give thanks for the parent. Well, you don't know the parent. No, I know what happens if you give thanks. It gives value. 4, and this is probably the most dangerous the way we deal with leadership today. So when we just destroy leadership, you know what we do? We take God out of the picture. There's no God possibility. There's no God working. There's no God making. It's just, this is wrong. It's not the way it's supposed to be. I'm out of here. When leadership is weakest, we have the greatest opportunity for Christian witness. Because only a Christian would deal with it differently. Anyone can tear it apart and murmur and tear it down. We're to be different. We're not Republicans. We're not Democrats. We're Christians. We are principled people who are God-dependent. And that is supposed to come out. I've worked for principals, and I've been under principals as a student. I've never had a perfect principal. Now, I've had teachers who would tear that principal down to me. You know, first I complained, but they would join in. And then I've had other teachers who would say, well, he's not always right, and there is a challenge, but this is what you can do. And you know what I can do? I can pray, trust God, and do right. sat under numerous pastors. I've never had a perfect pastor. Sorry, preacher. You can find something wrong. You can find reason to do the church hop. Or you can encourage. You want to know how many teens I've dealt with? I don't know. Let me tell you another secret. Most of the time they're right. Their parents are wrong. Because parents aren't perfect. Amen. They don't focus on when the parents are right. They only come to talk to you when they know their parents did something wrong. And you know what you have to tell them? All right, that may not have been the perfect situation. And that may be, but here, how are you going to help them? Here's your opportunity. Do you not believe that God can touch your father's heart? Here. Do you not believe God can touch the preacher's heart? Do you not believe? See, we take God out of it when we just live in that complaint. If he shows us the burden, then can't we take it to him and expect the true authority to deal with that little intermediate authority? Is he not capable? I do struggle with this fly-by-viewmaster thing. Here, three little things that we know we should do when it comes to leadership, okay? One is we should pray for those in leadership and give thanks. We know that because it tells us directly to do that. Can't be debated. Two, we should try to encourage them as we would want to be encouraged. But when I know I mess up all the time. I need forgiveness. I need encouragement. I'm thankful for the value that comes my way. If I need those things, don't you? And here. And I think a lot of people in this church do those things. But we definitely need to do this. We need to pray for others to become leaders. Because I'm telling you, the kids growing up just don't want to. Justin, they have listened to us tear down authority for 10, 12, 15, 18 years. They don't want to be that victim. They want to skate through. And if you remove God out of the picture, is there any hope anyway? So when we take God out and we tear it down, and then we say, this generation, well, who taught this generation? Two. The wisdom of Joseph. Verse 14, I'm not going to get through this. Verse 14, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. Can you imagine the butler saying, I kind of forgot something there. Let me know. When I was back there, when I did the bad thing and you put me back there, please don't do it again. Let me point this out to you. Joseph didn't know that he was forgotten. We always make it, and forgotten. He was, that's a fact. But Joseph didn't know he was forgotten. For all he knew, the butler brought it up, and Pharaoh said, tough luck. You're never getting out of here. So, Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself. Oh, not in this Bible, but in another Bible I have that outlined. You'll like this. When I was about 16, this is how crazy we get sometimes. When I was about 16, I heard somebody preach a sermon on this verse saying, you see, God likes clean-shaven people. No, that's how we do get that crazy. We take our own little personal thoughts, we whip them in there, and we leave out things like thankfulness and humility, and all you have to do to be good is wear a tie, which I failed today, and be clean-shaven, which I'll fail until January. And this is how I get in trouble. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. I've heard that you are the answer guy. I've heard that you can solve my problem. Miss Joyce, that clock's running, so we're going to have to stop right here. But let me just say this. Up till this point, we haven't heard one mention of God. But now Joseph's about to speak. to Pharaoh, the mightiest man on the face of this earth. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, it's not me. It's not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Whew. I can't wait to look at these next two snapshots next week. Brother Ivy, would you close in a word of prayer tonight?